Thank you for joining us. Let's get into our next conversation now. Despite the significance of small and medium scale enterprises to the economy and national development, Africa has a high rate of business failures and short-lived businesses. According to a report from PricewaterhouseCoopers, SMEs in Nigeria account for 48% of the gross domestic product, 96% of businesses, and 84% of employment in the country. But due to the country's economic circumstances, at least 1.9 million SMEs have been lost since 2017 as business closures persist at an alarming rate. Unfortunately, despite the major roles these SMEs play in the country's economy, they are still faced with a myriad of challenges that stifles their growth. Well, joining me now virtually as we address these challenges and profile possible solution to them is the founder, MSME Africa, Seye Ulorotimi. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, good morning, Frank, and thank you for having me on the program this morning.
Thank you for coming. Let's start the conversation with the assessment of the state of the Nigerian SME space amid macroeconomic fundamentals. And so what's your take?
Okay, so I'm glad that you already mentioned one or two things in your intro. Between 2017 and 2021, 2022, thereabout, we lost about 2 million MSMEs. And I actually want to argue that we actually lost more. Okay, because in 2017, the total number of MSMEs, according to the survey by Msme and National Bureau of Statistics, was 41.5 million. Then in 2022, we have 39.6, which is, that means 1.9 million is off, right? But I also believe that between those 5 years, we had new businesses that started. So if you had the number of those new businesses to the 41.5 we had before, you probably could be looking at something like 43, 45 million. Then from that particular figure now, back to 39.6 million, you can see that we lost more than 1.9 million MSME. So the sector, to use the strict balance, is not smiling at all. The MSMEs are coping with a lot of things that they are not able to withstand. So COVID came, fuel scarcity, cash scarcity, and everything. And the big players probably had what we call shock absorbers to absorb some of those things. But the small players, the micro, small, medium enterprises, were not able to cope. And they are still facing a lot of onslaught from government policies, from environmental factors, from political factors. So the state of the MSME in Nigeria right now is not palatable. It's not palatable. That's just my summary.
Okay. There are quite a lot of challenges facing MSMEs in Nigeria, as of course, as you talked about. But what is the major challenge of the MSME, now? And how do you think the government is responding or addressing some of these challenges, knowing full well that is the engine of the economy?
Yes, so the MSME is the engine of the economy. MSMEs contribute close to 50% to our GDP. They are responsible for over 80% of employment in the country. And in number, they are about 39.6 million, like I said. So what's the major problem? What is the major problem? I would say rising cost. And of course, you will attribute that to inflation and a couple of things. So rising cost of production, rising cost of capital, rising cost of raw materials. That's a major thing. You get to the market today, and what you bought for 5,000 last week is now 7,000. Now you need that to produce something, right? You need that to get your product to the market. You need that to get your service packaged together. And we can blame this to inflation. We can blame this to rising costs of power. Either you're buying diesel, you're buying petrol, or even the regular disco. They increase their tariff. So all these costs are piling up every day. Even the interest at the banks, they keep rising. CBN has meeting with bankers committee.
Oh no! Oh dear! We're having issues. Connection problem there. Are you there? I lost your thought.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, I think I lost your final thought there. Maybe you need to talk about your final thought. I think I lost your final thought there.
So I was saying that rising cost is the major factor, and of course, a lot of things are responsible for rising because the prevailing inflation, forex problem, the interest rate that increases every time, and many other things. Even the cost of power that keeps going up, cost of buying diesel or petrol, or even the regular power from the disco, everything keeps going up, and the MSME does not even know how to transfer this cost to the buyers. So that's a major problem.
Okay. How is the sector, interfacing with the government and perhaps the fiscal and monetary authorities? How are they interfacing with the political and I beg your pardon now, the fiscal and monetary authorities to address the challenges that the sector is facing? Is there any platform like that? Are you interfacing with the government?
So we have business membership organization, BMOs, like the LCCI, like the all the chambers of commerce and industry, like NASME, National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, and a couple of other business membership organizations where the MSMEs belong. And this, so far so good, they've been standing as a front for MSMEs to interface with the government. And then we also have a government agency, that is SMIDA, Small and Medium Enterprise Development Association, which is meant to actually be the major interface and the major policy driver. And I think they've been doing what they could do. But a lot of time, these policies are just dumped on the MSMEs. So you have little or no choice. I mean, for instance, the case of cash scarcity, it wasn't like MSMEs were called into a place and say, we're going to withdraw, we're going to do Naira redesign. The case of fuel scarcity. So what has happened is that those things just happen, and then we began to react instead of being consulted before the things actually happen. So
because that's let me quickly add, because that's where I want to touch in. So what kind of roundtable conversation, what kind of roundtable interfacing, or what kind of strategies or mode of operation do you want to have in place so as to ensure that even the government, the fiscal authorities, and the monetary authorities feel what the players in the sectors are feeling?
Okay, so what I think the kind of roundtable that I want to have is one that comprises of not just the BMOs or the government agencies, but the actual players, the actual MSMEs themselves. So you have a business management organization and you choose two people from there. Some of them are not really 100% in touch with what the average person on the street is going through. So let's have a forum that comprises of the actual players who are feeling the pinch. Then the government agency responsible for regulating the sector or standardizing the sector, and every other player. And then when we are drawing up this kind of roundtable, a lot of time we neglect the small players. You know, when we're talking about MSMEs, we have the micro, small, and medium enterprises. But every time they call people for roundtables, they call mainly the major players, the medium-sized players. And the micro guys, the nano guys who are feeling the pinch, they are left out of this conversation. So let's keep having conversations at various levels. Let's have conversation at the local government levels, at the state level, at the federal level, even at the world level. So organizations like SMIDAN, I want them to have footprints in all local governments, in all wards, where you can now choose the members of, the representative of an agency like SMIDAN to interface with people at the various local grassroots levels. That's the kind of roundtable I'm looking for. Not call a meeting in Abuja and just draw 10 people, 20 people to come and have a conversation for 3 days, lodge them in a hotel, and after that you come out with policy statement and policy document. No. Let's take this discussion to the grassroots where the actual people can actually tell you what their experiences are, and you can provide solutions to those problems, even at local levels. Because the problem in Anambra might not be the problem in Osun State when it comes to what the MSMEs are facing. So let the solutions be local, let the roundtables be local also.
I want us to also be clear. It's for instance, SMIDAN, which of course is the agency of the government. Do they have direct, a system that interface with the micro players apart from the small, the big players that, as you put them earlier? Do they have? I mean, if they don't have, yes. So, what exactly is the micro players like you doing to ensure that they are carried along or they are factored into the conversation as well?
So, in fairness to Smith, and I see a lot of attempt to actually come down to the grassroots. I've seen that in the last 1 year. I mean, I run MSME Africa, and I know that a lot of time they reach out to us to see what they can do with us.
Okay.
And of course, so I get to see the activities not just concentrated at some levels now. They are drilling down, but I think they can do a lot more.
Okay.
They need to have, it should be more representative of the actual players. That's what I'm expecting to see.
Okay. Recently the Buhari administration signed into law the Startup Act, and of course we also have the Business Facilitation Act as well. How is that helping the sector to grow in terms of performance and empowerment?
Okay, so how is that act helping the sector? Right now, I mean, this thing just happened. The Business Facilitation Bill, I think it's just like a month ago. Startup Bill was about 3-4 months about.
That's right.
So, and the typical thing, we do a lot of food dragging around here. But if these things are well implemented, what I see is that there will be a lot of boost to the MSMEs and the startups. There will be a lot of the ease of doing business would actually improve in a big way. But I think my major headache with most of this thing is that implementation, and then putting up a policy is good, signing the bill is fine, but how do we implement it? Who are the ones driving the implementation? If you put people who are just there to eat the money there, they will just sign things on paper and say, we have done this, we have done that, but they will not do the actual thing. So the implementation is what I'm looking forward to. Who are the ones driving the implementation? That's but the startup with the business facilitation will be very, very good. They will drive a lot of business activities. They will ensure that people are even willing to come and establish businesses in Nigeria because it becomes easier for them to get things done. But all the bottlenecks on the way, they should be taken out.
Okay, I'm also aware, and I don't know if you're aware, that the president set up a 14-member council for the implementation of the Startups Act, and of course funds will be given out and all of that. Are you aware of that? And of course, how is it do you think that will benefit the micro players in the sector?
Sorry, I didn't get to hear the question.
Oh, okay. I was asking you if you are aware of the 14-member council that was set up, inaugurated by President Buhari, to oversee implementation of the Startup Act. And that means that the funds that will be pushed out there, this 14-member council will be able to oversee to ensure the implementation. So I'm saying that it's your member at the micro, the micro level, the micro players in the sector, are they aware, and how are you taking advantage of that?
Okay, so I'm quite aware of the 40-member committee. Actually, when they were asking for nominations, I belonged to a BMO that actually was part of and parcel of the nomination. So I was also one of the people that nominated. Eventually, the most nominated people got they became the representative of the MSMEs and startups. Okay. So I like the fact that we have people that are representing us in the committee, but we are not in the majority. I think it's just about 4 people. And but that's a place to start with, unlike other times when nobody even calls you and then you just find that the committee has been inaugurated and what have you. So I'm also very optimistic. I don't want to see doom because it can't get worse than it has been in Nigeria right now. Nobody should prefer that. So I want to believe that everything that the committee needs to work will be given to them. Be free hand to implement, and if something is not working, they're allowed to change things, right?
Okay. So let me ask you this: why do so many businesses fail so quickly? Maybe I should ask that before we get into conversation, because from statistics we understand that
we champion it.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, of course. In my intro, I talk about the fact that a lot of businesses fail. So I want to ask, why do so many businesses fail? and it fails so quickly. Is it as a result of the challenges you've
there are a lot of
you talked
factors
about
for it.
Earlier?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors that make businesses to fail.
Oh dear, I guess we're having a challenge, hearing Mr. Ulorotimi, of course, trying to talk to us why so many businesses have failed and factors responsible for the failure. Perhaps it's a structural issue, and if it's a structural issue, how do we get above that? So, are you there, Mr. Ulorotimi? Can you hear me? Well, I guess we have issues there, but we'll quickly take a break. When we return, of course, we get him back online to look at a few issues before we leave. I'll be back in a moment. This is Business Breakfast. Please stay with us. All right, so we have Mr. Ulorotimi back online now. Thank you for your time. Seye Ulorotimi is the founder of MSMEs Africa. Been talking to us about the prospect of MSMEs and challenges they face in Nigeria. So, yes, you were trying to wrap up on the question I asked you earlier. I mean, the last question I asked about why do businesses fail. Perhaps you may have to break it down for us, the factors responsible for the failures of these businesses.
Okay, I want to believe you can hear me clearly now.
Yes, and let me also add that. Yes, let me also add that. Let me also add this before, so that you can wrap up at the same time. So, what is your projection as well for the MSMEs industry amid rising inflation and interest hikes?
Okay, so I would combine the answers. So why do MSMEs fail? Number one is unfavorable policy. You are playing a sector today, and then somehow there's a policy that says that for you to play in this sector, you have to pay this, you have to pay that, you have to register with this, register with that. I see a lot of players in a particular sector. For instance, in the logistic business, there was sometimes at a particular time, there was just this policy from one of the ministries of the federal government that says for you to do dispatch or delivery business, you must register with this, register with that, pay this and pay that. And because of that, a lot of the players just could not continue again. So unfavorable policy is number one. Number two is not taking advantage of technology. And that's the difference between the traditional MSMEs and the startups. Startups understand technology. That's why they keep getting funded. That's why they keep growing. But the traditional MSMEs are laggards. A lot of them, they don't take advantage of technology. And because of that, they are not trendy. They are not able to cope, and so they can die. Another one, of course, is not having lack of capacity. Some of them, when I say capacity now, people don't embrace capacity building like they should around here. People think because, for instance, you have been a doctor for 20 years, it means that you can go and start a hospital tomorrow. No. You'll have the technical skill, but the skill of managing the people, managing finances, getting clients, you don't have. So MSMEs fail because a lot of them don't embrace capacity building. They don't embrace knowledge. So those are three factors that I could state, apart from power and some other things.
All right. Give us your outlook of the industry now before I let you go.
Okay, so what I see in the industry, it will be dependent really on the new administration. But what I see is that we'll have a lot more female players within the MSME space. It's already happening. In the last 3 years, we see a lot more females emerging, and so we see a lot more of them. I also see a lot more businesses that are driven with technology. Yeah, so I said more female MSME players would arise. I see a lot of business driving their businesses with technology. But I also say that a lot of the MSME will still discontinue their businesses because of inflation and rising cost.
It's all right. We have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time, Seye Ulorotimi, founder MSME Africa. We appreciate you for coming on board.
Thank you very much, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you.